It's just gonna be my first split in LCS, like playing full time. I just want to show people that I'm really good.
It's awesome to finally be back in the LCS. I just miss like playing on stage.
This is basically like the next chance for me to prove myself as a player.
We win because I'm a god and I will carry.
Some teams will become, better at best of 3, or some teams will crumble.
I think C9 will be really strong this year with Impact and Bunny.
I think with this new roster, it's a lot better. This split is actually the best split we're going to have.
Impact's a really good top laner, but I think Huni's even better, so we can easily win.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 2016 North American LCS Summer Split. Now, last night we kicked off the split with a bang, and today we debut our new dual stream format, show off our new battle theater, and introduce you to the rest of our teams. Our players are getting set up on stage currently, as you can see right now. Of course, we're going to have Cloud9 versus Immortals in our first series of the day. Meteos going to be back in the jungle for Cloud9 today. Our first NALCS MVP there, making his return to the stage. Huni, of course, fan favorite there for Immortals, looking to come back strong after a disappointing finish to their split in the spring. And of course, newcomer Zig here for Phoenix One playing in the top lane. We've seen him in Collegiate as well as Challenger, so he'll be looking to make his stamp on the LCS, and Froggen leading the charge for Echo Fox. That LCS CS record in a single game to his name. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm James Dash Patterson, and joining me today on the analyst desk, our special guests, Marcus Dyrus Hill and Mark Zimmerman. Gentlemen, welcome, first off, to the new studio. And how are we doing today?
I gotta say, I'm not that happy, man.
What? Why not?
They took my chair. I have to stand up now. There's two things I do well. I sit, I talk about League, and you just cut out half my skill set.
All right, well, then you're just going to have to compensate then with you talking about League. You have to step up the analysis today. Dyrus, how are we doing?
This will have to be my exercise for the day. I can't slouch anymore.
We as video gamers are like, what is this? How do I stand up? Anyway, we've got lots of games lined up today as the LCS changes to a new format introducing best of 3 matches. So, gentlemen, my question to you is, how do you think this is going to kind of evolve and affect the competitive landscape as we know it?
I think it's only going to be a benefit. I think, one, you get to see coaches be more important because there was no adaptation between games. You just kind of had your pre-planned pick ban phase, and you went out there and you executed it, and that's pretty much all you did. Now you have to react to what the other team did, and it gets rid of a lot of variability where you kind of see, I think, more upsets in a best of 1, which can be interesting, but at the same time, I think it's a little bit more, genuine to who should win.
So the coaches are going to play a role, but Dyrus, talk to me about, from the player side of things, how operating under that best of 3 format is going to either improve or help them grow throughout the split.
I really like the best of 3 format because, first of all, you don't go home salty just losing one game. Maybe you got cheesed. Maybe you had stage jitters and you didn't play that well. And then you go at them with the second game and you can prove that, oh, we really aren't this bad. We can show them. On the other side, if you're winning, it's like, oh, we didn't win by pure luck. We actually stomped them, like the 2-0 for TSM till CLG. Or you can have the 2-1 with NV and NRG.
Yeah, any and all results are either a little bit more definitive, just in that it's like, hey, over a 3-game series, you had to win at least 2, so it kind of puts a little bit more of a stamp on the victory and or the defeat that you suffer as one team. Of course, we got our first taste of the format last night in the Battle Theater, where Counterlogic Gaming fell to TSM in a clean sweep after returning from a strong showing at MSI. And last night, Dyrus let the Twitterverse know in no uncertain terms how he felt about that TSM 2-0. Dyrus, on a scale of 1 to smug looks, how would you have rated that game last night?
No comment. I wasn't actually expecting this.
Can you do that face again right now?
I gotta prepare myself.
Okay.
Are you? But yeah, I mean, you look at this. Back here. We got a whole wall of
no.
Dyrus.
I can't focus. Can we put that down?
Oh my gosh.
You're
No one-
blushing. You're
Yeah,
blushing.
jeez.
No one told me about this.
We got to catch you up. We got to keep you on your toes every once in a while, Dyrus. Well, TSM no doubt looked great last night, but they're not without tough competition in this league. So let's run through some of the teams that might challenge them at the top of the table. And I want to start with Immortals, that team that went 17-1 in spring split, had a somewhat disappointing playoff run, only snagging third.
Right. I think the consensus coming in is that that fluke in the playoffs was just that. It was just a fluke. They came in ill-prepared. They weren't, playing the game quite right, if you want to call it that, and they lost as a result. But they showed in that third, fourth place match they're still dominant. And then from what I've heard from the preseason, scrim so far, they're still beasts.
They themselves know the best. I mean, even Pole Belter said they didn't really have a read on the meta with Urgot mid and Lucian top. Very unfortunate, but they're still a really, really strong team, and with their record, they should be strong this split too.
Exactly, and the fact that they haven't made any changes to their roster kind of reinforces the idea that they believe they do have the strongest team. They don't need to make any changes. Moving kind of down the line, let's take a look at Cloud9, a team that did make some changes. They're coming in with a 10-man roster here, the likes of Impact joining the team, Meteos returning to the Rift. What are our thoughts on this squad?
To me, it kind of depends how much they actually use this 10-man roster. Like I know, Team Liquid, we came in at that point, all like 10-man roster, gung ho. We made some initial swaps and kind of rode it out the rest of the way. And it's, with the C9 roster, I think it has a lot more room to move people around. And so I'm really looking forward to see if they change anything up.
In my opinion, I think it's just another way of saying if you do bad, we got your replacement right here. So you better try your best. It's going to be a good motivator, in my opinion.
Yeah, gonna light a fire under some asses there, keep people working hard throughout the split. Lastly, though, let's look at Liquid. You mentioned Liquid having come in with that 10-man roster. They kind of, wrote it out to the point where they're like, hey, here's the 5 that we want. Dardoch being one of those 5. However, he's going to be out for at least a week or two, given the suspension within the team. Moon in. What's your thoughts on the Liquid situation?
I probably know a little bit more about the situation than I should say, but Moon, from what I've seen in the scrims, I've been watching a decent amount of Team Liquid scrims, both them and TLA, and he is a lot better than he showed with Energy last year. I think there were some, just team synergy issues that he had with that roster, and getting a fresh start in the LCS, I think will do good for him.
All right, well, we'll see how that team develops throughout the day. Last night, we got our first look at Envy in their 3-game battle with Energy, and today we'll see the other 2 freshman LCS teams on stage. So expectations for the likes of Phoenix One and Apex. Apex, a team that has a fair amount of LCS veterans on that roster, so a decent amount of experience coming into week 1.
There are no newcomers to experience in terms of LCS. It's just more about how well they work together against other teams. They weren't really ever bad players. It's just more about synergy, and since they have experience, we'll see how they play in game.
I think for me, the big thing for Phoenix One that I'm happy about is seeing Zig finally in the LCS. Like, this is a dude who probably has paid more dues than like anyone else in NA. Like, he was started way back in season 2 on what was it, Monomaniac or something?
He's been around for a while. He's like the old Balls, where Balls was around in season 1 and 2, but never got really any recognition until C9 took off.
Yeah, except it's season 6 from basically season 2.
Right. And we've seen Zig in the collegiate scene as well as in the challenger scene. So he's finally made it here, going to be looking to make his stamp coming out of that top lane. Of course, there's a fair number of solid top laners across the region, so he'll have his work cut out for him. Another factor, though, that will shape the state of the league this summer is that mid-season patch that we saw come in. We've got Dragon and Rift Herald changes. We've also, of course, got the Mage updates. So with all of this in mind, gentlemen, how do we expect to see, for example, these Drakes changing the way that the game is played?
Well, it just means that early and mid game is more prominent, because if you let that go, it's gonna hit you later on, especially with the Elder Drake timesing all of these dragons by 2. One of the dragons that appealed the most to me is usually Infernal Drake or Ocean Drake, because when you siege, you get the regeneration from Ocean, or Fire Drake, you just hit a lot harder. And when team fights get really, really close to that last bit of health, that little bit is what's going to push you over.
Yeah, I think I'm very interested in how it plays out over the course of the season. We've seen like some weird games where you see like 4 Wind Drakes, and like it's just like, do we really want to even move that fast? Like, am I used to running that quickly? So the RNG factor that it introduces can be interesting. At the same time, it's a little bit of like, I think Wind Drake needs to get buffed necessarily, so like all of them have an equal impact, but are just different.
Okay. Now talk to me about the Rift Herald. I know that general consensus is that most people don't exactly know what to do with it yet, how much value to place on it, where and when to use it, when should we sacrifice maybe picking up a turret in order to pick up the Rift Herald, if ever.
We heard people talking about it a little bit last night where when people do take it, they tend to win a lot, but it's a bit of a question of the chicken or the egg. Like, are they winning and they just grab it? And I think that's kind of the case. Right now, it doesn't seem, even though it's like very strong, but it's not worth trading the long-term team impact of a dragon for because it really only influences that individual person for 20 minutes. So you would argue that the dragons are probably more impactful, and so that's why you kind of see it getting ignored in a lot of games.
Personally, I think it depends heavily on the champion. Like if you have a Zed middle, you can even give it to him and he'll split push.
Right.
But one of the champions that stood out to me with Rift Herald that people don't really play is Shen. Because with Shen, usually Vladimir was the counter to Shen. But with Rift Herald, Shen beats Vladimir, which is very, very weird. And it's a 20-minute buff, so it lasts for very, very long. It's very undervalued as a team objective, but more of a split objective where you can get the TP off first for your team. It's just a very, very valuable thing to have if you utilize it.
That's some of the theory crafting that I'm really curious to see teams employ as we become more familiar with the way that this Rift Herald buff works. Can we find the champions that do really benefit from that buff?
Right, you might see it's the kind of thing where you don't even need to change Rift Herald, it's just the top lane meta changes up and all of a sudden it's Jax, Fiora, Aurelia, and then it's like, okay, this is crazy, we need to get this buff. So.
Right, exactly. Speaking of which, I mean, I know this isn't the top lane, but we had the Mage update come through. So, of course, we're seeing some diversity in the champions being played. Vladimir, as you mentioned, being one of the ones that's played quite a lot recently. Swain, either on the ban table or being played. And, of course, Zyra showing up as well. So, you know, with that Mage update, who are the, you know, big contenders that you see? And then how do you expect these teams to evolve playing around these champions? Because it still seems like there's some uncertainty as to how to deal with the likes of Vladimir and Swain.
Since we don't really see scrims as much, I mean, I don't know if Mark here has, but I haven't. As for champions like Swain, the reason why Swain is so prominent is because he's very good against the current tank meta where it's Echo, Trundle, Maokai. Like Swain just straight out beats them in lane because of his sustain, and he's just a lot more ridiculous now.
Yeah, just keep going with Swain a little bit. You know, Quas was a huge Swain. He's like probably one of the best Swains in the world, and I watched a lot of his scrims. And before the changes, what he always struggled with was kind of these different team situations where you need more zone control, and now with the Q change, you can throw it into a choke point. People can't walk through it as easily. In a 2v1, you now have a range farming mechanic. You can kind of throw that bird out, and so I think a lot of the changes weren't as much numerical as what he's able to do now with the function changes.
Yeah, banned all 3 games against him yesterday. We'll see if he ever gets the opportunity to spring at that champion. Now, the increase in games also means we'll be implementing a new dual stream format as well, with matches played simultaneously across 2 different channels. You guys at home are welcome to tune into either or both to watch your favorite teams, but be warned, on the analyst desk, anything goes. In this zone, spoilers will exist. Watch at your own risk, and if you want to avoid spoilers, be sure to hit that mute button or check back with the stream when we're in game or at the caster desk. This is your last and final warning. When you see Dash, this face here, there are spoilers ahead. You know, like Tyler Durden isn't real, Soylent Green is people, and Bruce Willis, well, he was dead the whole time. Now, just a reminder that we've changed our system for recognizing standout players here at the NALCS. We're no longer using the OP5 format, and instead, we'll be selecting a player of the game that will weigh into selection of the regular season MVP at the end of the split. We'll tally the players who received honors throughout the weekend and recap the standings at the end of our Sunday broadcast. So we'll get a kind of a macro picture of where all those players are lining up and their impact on the teams. Of course, the standings, though, before we get into the games, we've got to check them out. Pretty much a clean slate for the teams, but following last night's matches, TSM and Envy sit on top of the list. We'll see which teams can join them over the course of this weekend, and that brings us to today's docket. Playing in the battle arena on NALCS1, we have Cloud9 versus Immortals, followed by Team Envy going up against Liquid. And in the battle theater, broadcasting on NALCS2, Echo Fox takes on Phoenix 1 with Apex and Energy facing off right after that. Gentlemen, with these 4 matches in mind, which are the ones we're looking forward to the most? Any key elements within the matchups that we're excited for?
For me, like I kind of already said, I want to see Phoenix 1 play. I'm very excited for Zig. I hope he goes out there and performs. Charlie, the coach, someone else I'm pretty good friends with, so a little bit biased. I like a lot of the people on that team and involved with that org, so I hope they do well.
And for most of us, it'll be our first time seeing those players play, so it's going to be a good litmus test for how they stack up against the rest of the LCS. Dyrus?
I'm very neutral for now. I'd like to see how everyone plays, and my opinion will be formulated as time goes on with the bandwagon.
All right, well, we get to start off with C9 versus Immortals, specifically on that matchup, as we mentioned, because C9 is coming in with this remade roster, whereas Immortals is coming in with that kind of solid 5 that they've had. I mean, I would assume that we expect Cloud9 to be fighting an uphill battle here. How do you think they should be approaching this best-of-3 series against Immortals to give themselves the best shot?
They have to be ready for the Huni reign over Pain train. So, like, it's going to be a very big test, day one, of how Impact and Meteos, what their synergy is like, and making sure that they're communicating when these dives are coming, when they need pressure, and I think that's going to be the key thing to watch.
All right, well, we'll keep our eyes on that as we head out to the games. It's time to hand it over to the casters to get the games underway.
Thank you very much, Dash. Hello, everyone. I am Rivington Bizen III, and joining me on the caster desk for this summer match in the Battle Arena is Joshua Jat Leesman. The players are going to have to win more than the crowd here. There is more than that on the line.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great game to start right here. It's going to be my first cast since MSI. I just can't wait to finally cast on this new patch and also in this new split of the LCS.
It's going to be amazing. Coming up, we have a clash of titans with Cloud9 taking on Immortals. Last time we saw Immortals, they swept Team Liquid for a third-place finish, but a disappointing end to a 17-1 regular split.
Exactly. I mean, that loss to TSM in the semifinals really raised some questions about Immortals in general, and these first games will kind of go a long way in showing whether that series was an anomaly or if it was part of a systemic problem for the team. Now, Immortals have had plenty of time to regroup and refocus because they didn't go to MSI as everyone was expecting. And also, tank junglers and carry tops are kind of good right now, which is great for Huni and Reignover. So Immortals are going to look to really start off strong and regain that reputation they had during the split as being the most dominant team in the LCS.
And bring it back. In the end, it seems like they knew what they did wrong, but can they put that into play now? Cloud9 was also busy over the break, as you know, just recently returning from their boot camp in Korea in preparation to debut their new roster.
Yep, new roster, but very familiar faces. Cloud9 picked up Impact, brought back Meteos, and then moved Bunny Fufu back to the starting lineup, while High Balls and Rush will be helming Cloud9's challenger squad, but still be on Cloud9's bench because they have the option of utilizing those players as substitutes. So it's kind of similar to what Team Liquid and Team Liquid Academy were trying to accomplish last split, even though they solidified a roster very much down the stretch. So we'll see if Cloud9 ends up experimenting with a 10-man roster or just goes with these guys the whole split.
Well, before we see this lineup in action, let's hear what Jensen actually has to say about the new Cloud9.
Our result was not very good last split, and Cloud9 as an organization have high expectations, and we couldn't really fulfill that, so we felt like changes had to happen. And I think with this new roster, it's a lot better. Like, everyone is really motivated, everyone wants to win, and it's showing in scrims as well. I think this split is actually like the best split we're going to have. So I'm really excited for that.
They're excited. I'm sure the fans are excited, but these changes in comparison are the biggest they've really had for the team coming into a split.
Yeah, I know. For one point in time, Cloud9 had this 5-man roster that had the longest run of almost any competitive team. It was over a year of the same 5 players, but now they're in a bit more of a rapid iteration. Competition's getting harder and harder for these guys, and Jensen has been better every split, so he's kind of been here for all the change in Cloud9.
Well, let's see who they put together now on that team. Let's fire up the roster rundown. First up, it's going to be Cloud9. In the top lane is now Impact. Meteos returning to the jungle. Jensen in mid lane. Sneaky at AD carry, and Bunny Fufu back to support with Coach Reaper now.
Yeah, and on the opposite side of the rift, of course, is the team that went 17-1 in the regular season last split, Immortals, with Huni in the top lane. Reignover in the jungle, Pobel through mid lane, Wild Turtle, who was the kills leader in the LCS, as AD carry, support of Adrian, and Coach Dylan.
Nobody could quite reach the man cloud level. Reckless got close, then they didn't allow him to get the last kill, trolled him on the Nexus, but...
Here's the interesting thing. So we keep changing the total number of games in the LCS. So 2013 had a 28-game regular season, and then most recently we've had an 18-game regular season. But now they're playing 18 best-of-3s. So I think the record that matters and will hold the most weight is the kills per game record, which I think Bjergsen has, but it's going to be close. The overall kills record has a very high chance of getting set this split, since they're going to be playing way more games than ever.
So coming into this match, looking at the lanes, how do we feel about these matchups? Because you have Huni versus Impact. Seems a bit mismatched. in that one. Jensen versus Pole Belter, actually quite even if what you saw at the end of the split. What are we kind of looking at as we go to pick some bans?
Yeah, it's actually going to be, I think, a big matchup in the jungle as well to impact those lanes, because Reignover took over so many games during the regular season, and it will play into the Huni versus Impact matchup and the Jensen versus Pole Belter matchup. But we haven't seen Meteos in competitive play for since he stepped down late into the summer split of 2015. So he's taken nearly a full year off of competitive play, and his first matchup is against the reigning MVP. So we'll be able to make our snap judgments, but I think a lot of it comes down to that jungle matchup.
Nidalee out. Be surprised to see the Victor or Azir stay up. Bryce has already been banned. We'll see what the last one is. It's actually Maokai, so both Victor and Azir stay. First pick.
We were talking before the show, actually, that Reignover is going to be very comfortable on Rek'Sai.
Yes.
Or any of the old school junglers, and I don't think Reignover necessarily had that great of an adaptation to the Nidalee Kindred meta. So I was expecting Cloud9 to actually just first pick a jungler or force Immortals to ban 2, but with the late ban of Nidalee, it's actually very surprising, because that could have been an early power pick jungler for Cloud9. But basically that just tells me, because of the small Nidalee nerfs, Meteos just either wasn't comfortable playing Nidalee into Rek'Sai, or was actually scared of Reignover's Nidalee. The last ban is quite questionable to me for Cloud9 because of those reasons.
And we also saw some Zac recently as well, so Meteos coming back. Maybe he'll bring up the Zac as well. The Rek'Sai is taken, like we were saying, for Reignover. That stops a bit of his early aggression, trying to get into that top lane to help Huni, who has a 56% kill participation record, or I'm sorry, first blood record with the team in that top lane for the regular season of spring.
Yeah, over half the games Huni was getting first blood. Goes to show how quickly Immortals was jumping out to leads in a lot of their games. But with the Rek'Sai taken away and 2 junglers banned, the normal fallback that we've seen throughout most of the world, since it's very common to see Kindred and Nidalee banned, is an Elise. But this is also Reignover we're talking about, who's played a ton of Olaf in the past, and I wonder if he's going to think about breaking that out in the jungle a little bit later in the draft.
He may even Graves as well, still left up on the board. Echo Ash is going to be picked up, giving Turtle even the option to initiate in this competition that says Echo already wants to go in.
Yeah, so, all right, they're picking Echo. Thank goodness. Now, would we go AP or Tank Echo? We thought he was going to be doing this in the playoffs. He decided to finally pick up on the tanks, and most likely seeing...
Well, they banned his Lucian, so...
a Tank Echo. Yeah, they banned his Lucian. No, you could have also first picked that if you're Cloud9, but I like their first pick, Rek'Sai. And the Ashe is something that we've seen a lot of over in Korea. The AD carry meta constantly evolving, especially with the Lucian being banned out, and some of the new itemization choices if he wants to go Black Cleaver. We'll see how Immortals use that to initiate.
Looking at the Bard pickup, now for Mu and MSI, we all know the story. We all know the range supports are getting a lot of love right now, and it looks like it may be what gets a little bit of love here for Cloud9, with Meteos picking up the Gragas.
Interesting. Top lane Gragas, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah, he's locked in the Gragas for sure, but that could very well just be for the top lane matchup. It's something we saw a little bit of in the playoffs when the top lane tanks were happening, but then we saw none of it at MSI. It had really kind of fallen off a cliff in terms of popularity with some of the Iceborne Gauntlet and Grasp of the Undying changes, but it looks like Impact's going to want to throw that Gragas in the top lane, unless they got something entirely different planned. I've seen a little bit of mid lane AP Gragas and solo queue, so there's still some flex possibilities there.
Is everything. Cloud9 may try to do it. Jensen actually kind of had trouble switching champions back and forth. Took time to get good on the Azir. Maybe he's been pocket testing something out we don't know of. And there's the Karma. And the Olaf does actually get locked in for Reignover.
Hey, we talked about it.
Yep.
Maybe he gets a chance to run the new and improved Ghost. You can get your cooldown on Ghost incredibly low with the Mastery as well as the cooldown boots. Basically more than half the cooldown of Flash if they don't have anything reducing the cooldown of that.
Yeah.
And also Karma to speed up outside of having that cooldown if he wants to keep the Flash. Karma's been incredibly popular in the North American LCS. Picked in all 5 of the games, or it had been picked in all 4 of the games leading up to the final game yesterday.
Biofos had some pretty crazy initiations with that. See a lot more supports. Less tempered coming in this season. Saw the best of 3s allowing people to do a little more aggressive play. Love seeing it, and this team from Immortals shows that they want to go a bit aggressive. Looking for Cloud9's final 2 picks here. The Azir may just be one of them. And Sneaky left to choose an AD carry for himself. Quite a few left up.
Yeah. Interesting how Caitlyn is seeing more and more play. And that just kind of completes what could be a good poke and siege composition for them, with the Azir and Caitlyn being able to set up shop outside a turret and having Gragas there for the potential disengage. So, I like how that composition came together in the last 2 picks for Cloud9.
Karma's already there. You know you'd love to pick Soraka still.
Just throw Karma mid lane. No harm done, man.
Remember, this could also be Huni's champion coming in for the last pick, if he wants to go against what he thinks is a Gragas in that top lane.
Could be. We did even see Adrian playing the Karma in the playoffs, so it's not super new. Like you said, they still have the chance of putting the Echo in the mid lane as an assassin choice. Echo actually a decent lane matchup against the Azir.
Yep. LeBlanc just try for what would be the counter. It's more of an even match now, the way things have skilled out. But he's going to take the LeBlanc.
Yeah. See if he changes the summoner spells up at all. Currently going with the teleport LeBlanc. You see that a little bit in the LPL, but usually the LeBlanc will bring a Ignite to try and get more lane pressure on the Azir.
Yep.
Otherwise, the Azir can shove in fairly easily without getting kill threat. But there's also the epic power of double TP if they want to try and capitalize off some Ash Arrow ganks in the bottom lane.
Yep.
Summoner choices are actually kind of interesting here. I'm wondering if Reignover is going to keep Flash and if Pop-Up is going to keep Teleport.
Heal as well for Jensen so far. I'm really keeping my eyes on if Immortals can find a glaring weakness here between Meteos and Impact in the top lane. 2 different players coming into the lineup. The communication may not be there. We heard it was already been a little difficult with Impact in tight situations, but if Reignover can find that and just kind of plant himself inside that caveat that they would have, it's going to be real tough for Cloud9 to get off their ground running.
Exactly. Communication is the biggest question for Cloud9. Impact was, he's always tried to be a leader on teams, but now when he comes in and he's the only native Korean speaker on this team trying to speak a second language, it's going to be a real battle to see what type of communication they have. Reaper, they've talked about how much he's helped the team communicate, but we're going to need to see that come to fruition on the Rift here.
All right, we are about ready to roll into this 3-game set. Let us know who you think is going to take down the Nexus in Game 1. I love that we can say that now by tweeting at LOL Esports with the hashtag C9 win or the hashtag IMT win. You get to vote a whole bunch. 3 times as much, possibly, as we get into game. The battle arena is on fire, and we're ready to get in. Cloud9 versus Immortals, and we are on the Rift.
Oh, baby. Yeah, so we're going to get to see Wild Turtle's Ashe. I wonder how the laning phase is going to swing, if we're going to see standard lanes. So many changes happened in the mid-season Riv. Double jungling has been diminished in effectiveness because there was no experience sharing on jungle camps. So either the top laner gets really far behind in experience, which you don't think Immortals is going to want to do because Immortals always tries to put Huni in favorable matchups, so you're more expected than a normal team to have standard lanes trying to be enforced by Immortals and having Huni in a solo lane directly against Impact's Gragas.
Seems to be the way the statistics are going to play out for Immortals as well. Like we were saying, the first blood kill participation really in favor of Huni, mostly Immortals side in general. Everybody fans out here for the start to get some line of scrimmage wards out. And we'll see how they begin this game. Like we said, we thought that Rek'Sai was taken by Meteos to get it Reignover, but we're still looking to see if Reignover can find a way into that defensive Cloud9. Saw a lot of games yesterday where it was just mid lane pushing, a bit of roam from the mid laners, and then another game where it was just junglers and top laners kind of taking over. So we've seen both styles coming out of the sets on day 1 and Friday.
Exactly, and looking at the very early beginnings, we can actually see Adrian and Wild Turtle looking to stop Sneaky and Bunny from taking the camp, but that's a really dangerous face check by Adrian.
A lot of face checks as well in the past day. Adrian getting hit up on this one. Energy took some damage to just about the same thing yesterday, so teams a little more relaxed during the early game, not taking as much precaution has definitely cost them.
This one definitely not as disastrous as what we saw in the Envy versus Energy series yesterday, because Adrian took about 250 damage, but he did come to lane with 3 potions, so each one of those will heal him for 150. He'll actually only need to chug 1 for now, and as long as he doesn't take harass, the regen and the level ups can bring him right back up. Karma's also one of the few supports who can tango with Bard level 1. that has actually been one of Bard's biggest strengths early, is he can charge up with some meeps and have an incredibly powerful level 1. But Karma has her ultimate at level 1 as well, so it's actually one of the few supports who can trade equally with Bard, and sometimes even favorably.
I expect this lane to sting for a while for Impact. He may miss a few CS there, but you're so right. Watch, like, getting hit by the meeps, knowing you almost can't take it, but that Karma lane is something that can stand toe-to-toe, and Adrian knows the exact kind of way you can play that ranged situation. Sneaky and Wild Turtle, no worse for the wear there, both farming completely fine as the supports just go at it toe-to-toe. And the mid lane's already pushed here. Jensen's trying to get it pushed fast, and a little ring around the rosy. They just miss each other.
This is really huge for Reignover because he's almost certain that he didn't get spotted right there, even though a ward had been gone for. And Meteos tried a cute jungle path on Rek'Sai. This is what a lot of junglers can do nowadays to try and maximize experience early on in the jungle. Pobelter goes in for a little bit of harass on Jensen. But to explain what happened in the jungle there a little bit more and why Reignover outsmarted Meteos here is the small camps have about the same experience as the blue or the red buff early on, but you can take the small camps faster. So Meteos tried to skip blue buff on Rek'Sai and then go back, and since he kind of recognized he might be getting invaded, he comes back a little bit later. Now Meteos has lost his efficiency, whereas Reignover has still gained his. Reignover now with a level advantage, as well as a longer duration blue buff, which can help his clear speed on Olaf even more.
And that's what we were kind of looking for. Can this weakness be made up now? Meteos, you don't necessarily need that blue buff for the blue buff, but you need the experience. That's where he's really hurt now, and his jungle's empty at this point, so he's just going to be going back for now.
And I think what Meteos' plan was actually to leave that buff up for a little while and then give it to Jensen really early. So they desync the power spikes of the mid laners and allow Jensen to shove in Pobelter until Jensen could buy a magic resist item. But now that breakpoint has been missed a little bit. Pobelter's already got his magic resist item. Jensen hasn't been back to base yet, and that favors not only Reignover, but also Pobelter.
And we saw it happen. It was all only because of a few seconds off of being able to place that ward when Jensen pushed the lane. Reignover had already made his way into the jungle. See how they continue to build off that. Bot lane has not stopped trying to build off the damage they have. Bunny Fufu, even with a depleted mana bar, tries to get the extra bit in. Sitting low right now, but it's pretty much just farming for Sneaky. No real lead towards the bot lane, but no jungle pressure either.
Yeah, Infernal Dragon will be the
now.
first Drake, by the way.
Yep.
Reignover with a decent advantage onto Meteos. I'm going to be interested to watch these guys battle throughout the best of 3. Mainly because when Meteos was at his best, his jungling style was very, very efficient, which I think is one of the things that defines Reignover's jungling as well, is just being in the right place. Reignover's a little bit more counter-jungle focused than Meteos was, but Meteos was always very efficient. So they're both, at their core, farm-heavy junglers who can also apply pressure after getting farmed. And now they're kind of set to clash.
There's the Mantra shield. Reignover's getting the tank in. He gets Summoner heal out as well. Huni's going to come in and try to do, but he's got no mana on the entry. Huni goes down, getting way overzealous in the play.
Yeah, I think that was a really poor play by Huni. He actually completes his teleport, whereas Impact wasn't going down to the bottom lane. And then in a straight-up 3v3, he phase dives into the turret. And it was a heady play by Meteos to get the flash knockup while Huni was still in turret range, but Huni should not have been in turret range because he was never going to be able to secure a kill with that play. And they give up first blood to Meteos, which makes up for the blue buff that had been taken away.
Just one more time. Reignover gets hit there. They feel like he's got the tank, so Huni says, I'll take a shot?
Yeah, but Reignover had to drop aggro because one more shot would have killed him, and Meteos very easily picks up the kill. So big mistake early by Huni there.
Trying to go aggressive, see if he can pull it back this time. Sometimes that did get the better of Huni throughout games. He'll fall behind, so he wants it even a little bit more. See if he can temper that aggression. Pobelter making sure he tries to dodge the soldiers, but he's just hanging around the outer rim there and takes each shot. This lane, though, 50 to 50. Very even across the board pretty much throughout all the lanes here. We've only seen Reignover be able to get something, and really, Immortals wasn't able to work off that.
Yeah, and that ward placement for Jensen, Reignover's walked through
Paying
a
off
couple
now.
of times. Even a double, looks like a double pink ward, accidentally placed in the brush, or just a pink ward and a normal ward. So Immortals over-warding a little bit. Not the crisp, clean play that you wanted Immortals to start out with for the split.
Just a quick push out there. Jensen recognized the aggression, but Pobelter just wants his blue anyways, so a bit of a breathing moment here for both teams as Jensen's just going to push up his lane and try to figure out where else he can go. Probably figuring that top ward is now seen. That's not going to help him too much. They have a good amount of vision to allow them to know where Immortals still is in the darkness. So safe play here from C9 after that first aggression from Immortals.
Man, a little bit of a difference in the itemization choices. Across the board, the main thing I want to point out here for Reignover is that he rushed his cooldown boots. That puts his Ghost on what is now a 135-second cooldown, or 2 minutes and 15 seconds. For comparison, Jensen's Flash is on a 300-second or 5-minute cooldown.
Right.
So if he's able to burn a Flash from a lane, he can do 2 repeat ganks with the Summoner spell before the Flash would be up again if Reignover times it properly. So that's what I like about Ghost, generally. You can see Reignover really valuing that reduced cooldown as well as movement speed early.
Yeah.
Then the other thing I want to point out is just the Catalyst on Huni. Not necessarily going straight for a tank build, but might be going for the AP Echo if that turns into a Rod of Ages.
Trying to get that damage out. Very much a Huni style type of thing. Bot lane's level 6s now. They might be waiting on Adrian. It is a 5 and a 6 as well for C9. It's been pretty volatile bot lane for nobody going down in this area. It was just Huni that gave the assist over to Sneaky, so it didn't catapult him ahead too far either.
Yeah, lots of relatively aggressive trading though.
Yeah. I like it. We saw it pretty much out of all series.
They're both supports going with the exact same itemization, early Sightstones. Cloud9's going to hope to outpace the wards on the map a little bit, especially early game. With Reignover doing his Lucidity Boots rush, he has not only not gone for a Tracker's Knife yet, no Sightstone. Meteos has a full Sightstone, so
that's true.
You can already see the wards kind of littering around that Infernal Dragon.
Yeah, definitely putting a lot of focus on that. With no presence really in the bot lane too much, Reignover's going to start doing as much clearing as he can. He should be able to get the second one before it goes down. Scuttle Crab control as well over to Cloud9. Reignover is just return on investment here for that Razor Beak, and then just the path he is taking. Bot lane's starting to back, so it looks like Immortals is going to hold off for a second here and may actually try to tango in the bot lane. Huni's teleport is almost up, so that play is a possibility if something goes for Dragon here. Blue buff over to Jensen, so everything's kind of spelling out. We could get a fight soon.
Yeah, and I'd say the Infernal Drake is definitely perceived to be the strongest one. Very early in the game, it's not, because it's a percentage increase, an 8% increase in your attack damage and your ability power, which will get stronger later in the game. But that doesn't take away from how important it actually is to get, so you get the power in the late game, even if it doesn't give you super immediate payoff.
Everybody's trying to roll the Mountain Drake. We have 500 gold lead. Temper Fate forces the Flash. Not necessarily an ultimate they would need for the Dragon, but it sure will help with what kind of initiation Immortals can bring to the table.
Yeah, so in the very short term, ultimate for Flash, if a team fight is to happen, usually favors the team that burned the Flash, but obviously the ultimate will come back up much sooner. So Cloud9 wants to wait for Temper Fate to come back up again. Then would be a time.
It's all about the long con.
Dragon fights. But Reignover and Huni looking to make a move. So is Jensen.
Jensen holds on the trigger. He does not Emperor's Divide, but it may be pulled here in the top lane. Impact already backs off. They don't get a chance there, but now seeing two top. Great move by Impact, pulling back, feeling the pressure. Dragon is going to be going over to Cloud9 here. With the warding they've been putting on the bottom side, they almost deserve it at this point.
Yeah.
They've been keeping that up quite well.
And a very classic type trade here where Cloud9 takes bottom because Reignover is top. Cloud9 takes the Dragon because Immortals is top taking a turret. It helps Huni a little bit, but add that to the fact that Pobelth has been getting pushed in by Jensen, and Cloud9 is going to be keeping the gold even, as well as getting the Infernal Dragon. So great job by Jensen shoving in Pobelth so heavily.
That's what it's been. Like we said, some series with just the Zillion pushes from Bjergsen against the Victor, and now the Exir against the LeBlanc, who can't exactly trade back the push as well. Results in mid-turret. Where are they going to go from here? Cloud9 looks like they want even more vision. Third one's just going to drop, or second one, I should say. First one was Immortals top lane, but they're going to ring around the rosy here, try and get all these outer turrets down.
Yeah, and I mean, Jensen getting that turret early is just so huge. I think that was for a couple of different reasons. One of them was the recall timings of the champions, because obviously Reignover actually denied the blue buff from Jensen early, so you would have expected Pobelth to do a little bit better.
That's true.
But when Jensen backed very early on, he had 2 Doran's Rings and a Cloak versus just 1 Doran's Ring and a Cloak, which gives him a little bit more pushing power. Add that to the Summoner spell choice we talked about early in the game, where Pobelter brings Teleport, and he doesn't have kill pressure on Jensen. So when Jensen was able to itemize early defense, as well as 2 Dorans to push, he consistently stayed pushed up in that lane, shift the turret down time and time again, and eventually was able to push it down from Pobelter. So really well played by Jensen to get enough chip damage and keep the lane in a position so that when Meteos was arriving, they could take the turret.
I thought that would be one of the bans as well, the Azir on the side of Jensen. Something, as I said, he had to build up to, but definitely showed very, very well on it towards the end of the season and has held that pretty strong throughout the wait, if you will, here in their boot camp over to Korea. Right now, still pushing up quite actually heavily here on mid lane against Pobelter. Not too much warding around him. Echo, or Huni rather, on the top lane, pushing in Impact still, waiting to see what he can provide for the team in these fights, but he's not really that far behind if you look at it. It seems like Huni has been taking it to him all lane, but Impact's holding.
Yeah, Impact is even in CS. I would still say Huni's had the pressure advantage. That's
for sure.
Because Rainover has been ganking, and Huni also has to come back from that really bad play he made in the bottom lane when he gave up first blood.
That's true. That's true.
And he's still up in CS. So the Rod of Ages Echo giving a little bit of pain to Impact. But like you said, Impact keeping up in CS and will just be a tank in teamfights.
We'll see him soon. Nobody's really grouped up just yet. It's all been the cross-map plays as these outer turrets are still up and slowing things down. Back lane, or bot lane is already back. Sneaky 127 to Wild Turtles 131. Those two actually consistently either plus or minus 3 on their opponent throughout the spring split, so keeping true to that as well.
See Daisy. The Wolves reset on Meteos. Going back for more. Gets some counter jungling in of his own.
Trying to deny as much as possible. Get in the hair of Rainover a little bit as well after that early game pressure.
Well, Rainover's been really good about finding multiple wards with his Raptor buff. Can't quite get the duration. Oh, they get sneaky with the teleport.
Oh, the net. He tried to dodge it for a bit of movement. Can he make it to the portal? He could not. The magical journey is taken by Huni. Parallel Convergence is in, and the Tempered Fate is going to be flashed away by Huni. He's looking for the kill. They put it down with Pobelter, and now the tank is on to Rainover. He is gigantic, and they have all day to hang out under this turret. Rainover throws an undertow backwards to pick up a kill for himself, and the next one goes to Huni, as it is a 5-man Immortal swarm in the bot lane.
Whoa, and they get 4 kills for it, so everything we had talked about from Pobelter having teleport and how it was hurting them from the laning phase is corrected right there with the Ash Arrow into double teleport. That is actually Immortals' whole strategy coming into this game, was Ash Arrow and just mob bottom lane. They double teleport at close to exactly the right time. They both pop out. They prioritize the targets with Pobelter going for one and Huni going for the other. And then you're wondering if this is going to be a repeat of Huni overdiving, but they had already killed the Caitlyn, so the majority of the DPS was gone. Azir was not there because Jensen had been pushing out the mid lane, and they just get to sit under this turret. This time they properly managed turret aggro. Meteos is trapped, and 4 kills come out from a nice double TP and a successful Ash Arrow. Great execution of their composition right there from Immortals.
A lot of love for Huni here in the top. He gets a good stun on Parallel Convergence, but gets trapped into the fight as he goes for the dive onto Bunny Fufu. Great placement by Sneaky and the team to get that down.
Yeah, and Jensen catches Turtle as well, so Cloud9 is trying to strike back a little bit. Jensen is by his lonesome, but the rest of his team is helping him out.
The plethora of wards are paying off for Cloud9. Throwing the far sights forward and keeping the sight stones coming. They're getting a few here and there.
Yeah, and Azir turret ends up going down at the end of that one. But basically, as Immortals used all of their resources to go down and gank bottom lane, Jensen wasn't even involved in that fight, so he's able to find Wild Turtle in the jungle and punish. And a big roam up top punishes Huni for being a little bit overzealous. And the game actually stays quite close after Immortals seem to just kind of have that switch that they pulled to get 4 kills in the bottom lane. They end up getting 2 back.
Jensen being alive picked up quite a bit of CS on that one, and now a kill for himself will catapult forward. Quick Sork boots by for him, and here's how it happened.
Yeah, with the gank already happening in the top lane, Wild Turtle did not expect Jensen to just be chilling there. Azir ult into the wall, Ash Arrow to the face.
He got his flash. He got his flash.
There we go. They did it. Can't 100% blame Wild Turtle for that one because he would have expected Azir to be coming up with the dive. You usually expect all hands on deck when someone's going for a dive. But really smart of Jensen to wait for the Immortals response there. He kept Wild Turtle.
Blue over to Jensen. Top lane is going to be pushing in Cloud9's favor. They don't really have to worry about that right now. They're worried about a mid lane fight. Seeing Rainover peek out from the side, though. They still want it. Turtle goes down immediately. Bunny Fufu is going to be the next as Emperor's Divide is actually keeping Impacts from going around here. Fight's pretty broken up now. Kuni back in with his Chrono Break. And that resets everything just a little bit as it's now 4 members on the side of Immortals facing 3 of Cloud9.
And Immortals actually come out on top there. Wild Turtle got the small stun because his Ash Arrow came out, and Jensen has shifted all the way in, so they found themselves staring right at an angry Olaf who ended up picking up a double kill.
Yeah.
So now Immortals has to counter push off this.
Kind of seemed like they were in, let's keep going for it when they could have pulled out, but it could cost them more here. Impact trying to hold the turret as much as possible, but it's at 4v2 right now. And Impact's going to get tethered in by Adrian. The kill to be finished. Hooney makes it over finally, but it is going to cost him his life in the end. That Z-Drive Convergence almost getting him out.
Yep, really low mana on Adrian as well,
Resonance,
so he couldn't help speed him out.
Yep.
So it ends up being a 1-for-1. Not a great turret defense there by Impact. It was 2v4. They should have just given the turret up. But he tries to stay a little bit too long. So definitely some early season mishaps, you would say, coming from both teams. Hooney not super clean on some of his dives, and Cloud9 a little bit of miscommunication, but being able to pick up the second Drake is very fortunate.
Ocean Drake going over. That will be for Cloud9. So they have 2 now for themselves. Ocean and Infernal will help even more as they get towards the late game here. We'll see how they continue to use those. More or less just help them hang out in lane.
Yeah, I think Ocean Drake is really, really good, especially for Cloud9, who's going to be trying to set up siege situations. So if they take any poke from LeBlanc trying to dash in and land a few spells, or a Karma Q that goes and connects, or a volley, they can just back up, get out of champion combat, they get that extra percentage regen, and they'll be able to stay on the map for longer in the mid game, which is really, really potent.
Essence Reaver finished up for Turtle. Hurricane finished up for Sneaky. So a few core items are on the board. Both junglers are Cinder Hulk, as we would expect. The Righteous Glory for Rainover. We haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah, he wants to go fast. He's
gotta go fast.
You know, he's the only guy that plays a lot of Olaf in competitive, so he's still going to have his own way of building it, and he kind of dictates what is good on this champion. He knows it better than anyone. Definitely some efficiency questions with that item. 500 health, 300 mana. And they changed a little bit in the off-season, or in the mid-season. Gives him 75% move speed when going towards enemies, but it doesn't haste the whole team. So he's going to be kind of going on solo missions.
That'll work. That sounds like Rainover. Hooney will probably join just a little bit after, or Hooney is
well, they can double teleport in as Rainover's flying in. Ghost in his Righteous Glory.
Sneaky can't really aggress with the team he was just taken out, so Meteos and Bunny Fufu forced to fight by themselves here. Not enough minions to take the top turret. Immortals is kind of fizzling out this push here as they looked for a pick, but they're not in a rush to really get anything here. 3,000 gold lead for themselves. They're working it quite nicely after a little bit of a mishap in the early game.
Yeah, and now Immortals trying to push all 3 waves. One of their trademarks during the regular season was the fact that they just always had the waves in the right position. So even if the kills were close, even if it looked like they were dying, their gold lead was always huge. And then every once in a while they get a few kills and just take down like 3 or 4 turrets directly after, and suddenly the gold lead was 10 to 15,000. This game though, C9 is still hanging pretty tight. They also have the incredibly potent teamfight potential of Azir and Caitlyn in the very late game if it gets there. But I think for Cloud9, the challenge is going to be staying controlled against all of the initiation potential of the Ash Arrow as well as the double TP from Immortals.
It's going to be so difficult, as you're talking about the lanes. Top, bottom still haven't dropped, so those are pushing in even faster each time. So Immortals is just kind of have a lot of time to play with in those side lanes. Pole Belter already back to the top to get that push, and Hooney hovering bottom.
Yeah, the only turret Cloud9 has taken was the one that Jensen grabbed really early on. So the rest of the lanes haven't had much pressure, and there's another Ash Arrow.
Oh, Sneaky gets found again with the initiation from Turtle. They're able to do it from so far away. And Cloud9 is not expecting it. Rainover looking for that quick 1v1, but they're actually getting a lot of pressure on this and may turn around, find themselves Baron.
The accuracy on Wild Turtle's Ash Arrows are super key right here because as soon as a McHale's gets pulled for Bunny Fufu or Sneaky has time to build the QSS, it's going to lose its effectiveness, but they've been able to get big rewards out of the last few, and now they go straight for Baron. It's going to be tricky, though. Bardalt can stall it if Cloud9 wants to fight.
Huni very low. Chrono
There it
Break
is.
to start the fight. Looks like they're going to temper fade it. They pull back for now. Adrian gets killed by Baron. Great damage as he was held back by Jensen. Rainover very low to go down. C9 fighting this one well. Impact flashes away, and Jensen's doing what he can. A triple, looking for a quadra from Jensen. Pobelter's on the left, and they almost know it immediately as he phases away with his distortion. That's the quadra kill for Jensen in the Baron attempt by Immortals.
Jensen does an insane amount of work in that fight. You knew Immortals was getting a little bit dicey by going for that with just a 5v4 in a pretty close game. And we're not even in the late game yet, and the team fight potential of Jensen is already there, so he played that fight spectacularly. The Baron that did kill Adrian was also because there was a very tricky-to-see Sand Soldier that Jensen had snuck in there from over the wall. So you can see the very start of this fight, Huni ults back, and then you can see Jensen gets pretty close, and he throws a Sand Soldier in there and gets 2 hits full onto Adrian, so he actually proc Thunderlords as well as when Baron's hitting him. And then it's really just all Jensen in this fight as he's able to also take down Wild Turtle while Pobelter was trying to threaten him off with damage. Doesn't get fooled by the clone. Able to finish off the kill with yet another hit.
Huni was in Penta health range as well. He just got the better of Impact and was able to make it out. But 6-1-0 now. It's like Jensen has been going back and basically buying full items each time. Finally be able to make an impact with one of them. His Immortals bit off way more than they could shoot.
Yeah, last year the All-LCS first team was Huni, Rainover, Wild Turtle, Adrian. 4/5 of the Immortal starting roster, although many people thought Aphromoo and Piglet should have been there, but it was 4/5, and then Jensen in the mid lane, right over for Pobelter. And you're kind of seeing why right here, because Jensen can be such a high performer in critical situations. Really, the main reason they're winning this game, from his lane pressure onto Pobelter, being the only turret Cloud9 has taken even still to that quadra kill. But now, TP from Huni. They're trying to lock down Jensen.
Oh, as would I. Jensen goes right down. That kill, much needed to Wild Turtle. Put some cash in his pocket. And now they're on to Meteos, really looking to do some damage here, possibly finalize another kill. He is a tanky target, and they're going to have to give up on that. Impact is in. The team tries to get away. Rainover right into a cupcake. Goes down. The ultimate already quarter down. Don't know why he tried to dive so hard. The eyes onto Huni, but the eyes could also be on the rest of the map as a big wave is mid, and they're pushing Immortals back.
Oh,
Meteos rushes out with the Void Rush, and now they are onto the map for another Ocean Drake.
Oh, that is so huge. The fact that Cloud9 have now controlled the first 3 Drakes, and the fact that they get double Ocean, which really means if they don't die immediately in fights, I feel like they can just back up, but now be getting 8% of their missing health and mana every 8 seconds out of combat from this Ocean Drake.
So nice for Meteos. He just goes into the ground. He's like, oh.
Yeah, already healing from Rek'Sai, and now just going to be able to heal the full. And a turnaround there from Impact, so the best play he's made all game for sure. Being able to hit Rainover onto a cupcake just to ensure the doom. And we got ourselves a game here. Immortals with the gold lead and some of the aggression, but Cloud9 with the scaling with 3 dragons as well as Azir. Here Jensen gets trapped in the Echo Stun. Huni then ults back a little bit prematurely. I don't think he necessarily needed to do that because he needed it as a backup plan for this dive. Impact biding his time. Goes in and just flops Rainover right over that trap. Bloop. The Immortals have to back away.
Rainover ult up, Huni ult up, teleports halfway down for Huni and almost up for Pobelter, so no place to really be had there. They kind of lost control over the map. Still having Pobelter go to the top lane though. Farm out the top lane every time he can. Got quick movement to come back to the mid lane if possible, but Huni as well, trying to do janitorial duty on those bot lane waves.
Yeah, and it's actually really tricky for Immortals to set up teleport plays because their wards in this game are really poor. They only have the 1 Sight Stone, which is normal, but then they've also gone Chilling Smite on Rainover, and up until Huni completing these items and buying a peak ward, there were 3 people on Immortals that had full inventories with no room for pink ward. So not only did they not have sightstone coverage,
just hurting
they
themselves.
couldn't even get pink ward coverage on the map. And you need sight wards or pink wards in order to channel teleports on for flank opportunities. So really their only way of finding fights is that Wild Turtle somehow sees them with Hawkshot and then sees them to get the ultimate off. So we can kind of see some of the things that are stalling Immortals in this game, from taking that goal lead to more prominence.
Well, here you go. If they always have the minion waves pushed, then you can teleport to the minion.
Then you can teleport to the minion. I mean, you can see right now, they're going for a flank, maybe, but they're so far away, and Cloud9, they have to respect it. Echo and LeBlanc can sneak up on them.
They have such good wards behind them as well. They're able to deter this hit from Echo here. That pink ward, he just walked over, no time to even clear it. And they're ready to set back up again and assess the situation. Pobelter's now to the bot lane, so aggression is definitely a possibility, but there still is the disengage arrow on the side of Immortals.
Yeah. Pobelter knows he's got teleport, so he's just going to try and get some easy damage on this turret in the bottom lane. Prompt response from Impact, who also has teleport. And actually, Pobelter's got to do a lot of juking because he cannot kill Impact. Oh, Impact misses ultimate. That's unfortunate.
About that juking.
Pretty easy. Impact, Wisp, Body Slam, and then ultimate.
Well played, though. You gotta give credit to Pobelter as well. Making his moves unknown to his opponent. Actually, not too unknown. Down to half health now as he still tries to tango with Impact. The teleport's there. It doesn't look like C9 wants to fight off more than they can shoot, knowing that those teleports may be available. 230, 220. The CS is being cleaned up pretty much everywhere around the map accordingly. Jensen still kept that lead from not being in the bottom fight, and it's extended a little bit. But since that fight, Immortals have said, hey, Jensen's pretty strong. We probably shouldn't fight him right now when he's 6-1. So they killed him once, and they're waiting for that next chance.
Yeah, but now he's completed Rile Eyes, Void Staff.
Yeah,
and
it'll be a little bit harder.
That magic resist. Meanwhile, Sneaky's approaching the really powerful point in the game for Caitlyn. Once he completes that second Zeal item, he'll be hitting the 70 to 80% crit thresholds on Caitlyn.
Yeah.
Crit headshots with the Hurricane, very frequent and very painful. So really liking Cloud9's chances as this game moves on. Impact is going to have to make sure to place his spells properly. I've never liked the way Gragas scales in the late game, especially when you compare him to what Echo will be able to bring. But if Impact can land the right type of ultimate onto Wild Turtle, none of those scaling problems will matter because they'll instantly be able to kill Wild Turtle. Definitely, Cloud9 has definitely been able to weather the storm from those 4 kills Immortals got in the bottom lane.
Back and forth for Huni and Impact. Doesn't look like much is going to come out of this tank fight. A lot of pings towards the top side. Both teleports are up. Who could be faster? Rek'Sai turret or tunnel's getting taken down, so they can't void rush into a spot behind. Immortals looks like they actually want to pressure for a fight again. They kind of want to test the waters and see what Cloud9 can bring to the table. Bot lane should be taken down slowly by Impact as all this is being set up. If he decides to back.
Impact, still just the one turret taken down for Cloud9.
Yeah.
So if they're going to win this game, it's going to have to be off of a big team fight win, and then probably a push. Could also be a sign of another shot calling not necessarily being as clean. They're just kind of reacting to what Immortals is doing to pull off some of these plays, but still a lot of the talent there for Cloud9 to make these plays happen. There's the second turret. Here we go.
This is money on this outside that could finish these Frozen Hearts, these other items that these guys are trying to build up here and get themselves into a position where they can take these fights without feeling too scared. Already pushing down mid lane, trying to dictate this one. Huni's brought to the bottom. And it looks like Impact may try to just waltz over here. He's going to try to play the Fog of War game and mess with Huni as their team tries to take mid now.
Yeah, definitely been fightless for a while, given enough time for everyone to have all of their summoner spells up. Next fight could definitely be very explosive. 31 minutes in, death timers are getting longer. The 4th dragon is spawned. It's the Cloud Dragon. So Cloud9 would be able to just kind of back up and take that if they choose to. But Pobelter looking for a flank.
Ooh. Jensen quickly back and forth. They dodge. Meteos gets hit by the arrow. Reignover's trying to go right for the back line, and he is going to get obliterated in his attempt. They put the turret up, and they cannot get past the Cloud9 defense. Huni's on the outside trying to poke in from the wing now. And it was just an instant wall that Immortals hit when they attempted that.
Rainover just not enough power to go through. It looked like they were getting a lot of damage on a Jensen. All attempts were to make it there. Cloud9 actually used both Jensen's and Sneaky's heal to try and keep him alive right there, even with the diminishing returns on heal. But it does keep him up. That means they kill Pobelt and Rainover, and now they might look to turn for Baron. They're pretty low, though. So maybe just a recall.
It would be scary. Even though it's not a 50-50, you have to wonder how much damage you can get from the outside of.
Oh, boy. That's Immortals
Or do they
behind
still
them.
want
All
it?
the ruse.
Drag Assault is not up, but they may have the control. Hooney's going to be hit here. Chrono Break goes back. It's enough damage to not deter, rather, Cloud9. They stay in the fight knowing they're going to capitalize on 2 more kills. It's Wild Turtle and Hooney, but now Rainover's up. Does he go face first into the Baron pit for the 50-50?
And look at the regen that Cloud9's been able to get because of those 2 Ocean Drakes as well. When they fall back to return that fight, they all come back at full health by the time Meteor Assault's back in. Now, Rainover going for a steal. They're just going to try and kill him.
Oh, he's like, I can hit it, I can do this! Oh, he stole it! Pobelter came in and added the extra damage necessary. Immortals working together.
They'd taken it to 1500 and they chose to stop damage on it, but Rainover just popped his ultimate and his ghost, and then Pobelter and Rainover combined just bursted it down into smite range and took it. Oh, what a clutch Baron steal there for Immortals. Like, I actually think Cloud9 did the correct thing of like, oh yeah, by the way, stop damage on Baron, turn and kill the jungler. But Immortals, I guess Cloud9 didn't stop damage early enough. They would have had to do around 3,000.
Damned if you don't.
Yeah, but that'll be
Either
4th
way.
Dragon for Cloud9 as well. Now they move fast.
Oh, do they get this one as well? Pobelter will tank it up, get that for himself. So, cash money around the board. And a Cloud Drake being picked up. Gotta go fast.
Yeah.
See what happens. So Adrian's here toying with them, pulling a few off. So the shield
So we need to pay attention to the Baron health right there. He speeds them up. Like they peeled off at 1500, and they just burst it. Pobelter uses a spell combo, and Rainover smites from 650, and Meteos was already peeled out to try and stop Rainover, so he may not have even been looking at the Baron at the time.
Yep. It was Impact was the closest one, pretty much to it.
Yeah, really clutch steal because Cloud9 with the double Ocean Drake and the Infernal Drake, once they added the Baron buff right there, they would have been able to set up very prolonged and dangerous sieges since Caitlyn and Azir have been getting so powerful that it would have really forced Immortals into like really difficult initiation attempts that have to be completely all in, because if they just poke him, it's not going to be enough. But now with the Baron, it makes it so Cloud9's siege isn't nearly as powerful. And Immortals can even get some split lane pressure because they have Baron-empowered minions on multiple people.
Looking good all around. Adrian picking up his Ardent Sensor. Give the team some assistance in those shields. There's one for himself and a teammate there as he mantras out as they poke back. Meteor so tanky right now as well. Dead Man's Play, Spirit Visage, and another Chain Vest on top of it. But Cloud9 respecting Immortals here, but it's really giving them a lot of map control. Hooney to the top side, and Pobelter really not leaving a side lane either.
Yeah. The 4 Drakes are definitely the defining factor in this game. Immortal's going to have to pull up some magic or just a really clean initiation.
Yeah, and we got Elder now.
To get anything done, but the windows that Immortals was capitalizing on to get their early lead that they kind of lost when they went for that Baron that resulted in the Jensen quadra kill. Oh, Impact is looking to kill Pobelter. Go for the one with the blue buff. They both have blue buff. Oh no, what do you do? Pobelter gets away.
But right.
But anyway, the Ash Arrow is not nearly as effective anymore because there's a QSS on Sneaky and a McHale's onto Bunny Fufu. So even if they can land an Ash Arrow onto Jensen, Bunny can McHale's him to allow him to shift out. And his flash is almost back off of cooldown. So much more difficult for Immortals to get any type of lockdown in these fights.
There's a lot of safety as well in the Zanyas for a Azir as well. An Azir, I should say. Just after these Zanyas, Emperor's Divide. My team's around me. Usually Zanyas is kind of like, well, now I just look gold before I die.
Well, they hit him, and Bunny's actually not there, but neither is Immortals.
Gets the hold the Zanyas. Meteos already used his tunnel, so he's forced to flash on that one, and Bunny Fufu throws out a quick relic for him to speed away with some health on. So Immortals not shy at all at this point in the game. They want to be able to pressure what lead they have, be it only 2,000 gold. The pressure is on. Rainover down mid. Emperor's Divide does not push away the Ragnarok. And now they're going to be going for the fight. Impact throws down the cask and it separates them. Rainover in a 5v1, and the team cannot enter the ring with him.
And Huni ends up well away from the final. Watch that again. He does finish off Jensen on the backside. So it ends up being 1-4, and I think Jensen going for the game.
Look at this one-man deterrent here.
Oh,
the
that damage on
pressure.
Sneaky.
Sneaky's gonna go down as well. Pobelter reroutes from the bottom side. Now they're on to Meteos as he takes the arrow to the face, or rather a knee, if you will. 37-47 on the clock, and Immortals have the map to themselves.
Oh my goodness, that Huni play. I have to see like where he went in that fight to reappear and just crush. Cloud9 essentially finishes off Jensen and does all the relevant damage to Sneaky when hope was seemingly lost as well for Immortals. They're going to be able to pick up a lot of turrets. They have really substantial death timers, just a tank and a support up. They could get an inhibitor, maybe more.
Oh, the damage coming in. Impact wasn't even ready. He has been one of the last men standing.
Then Huni dies to Impact.
Go
Huni! Huni giveth, Huni taketh away. We'll see this fight one more time. Yeah, so Huni's in top lane. Obviously, Jensen had gone. This is the really early version of the fight where Meteos gets caught out. And then in a little bit, Jensen's going to go for a big play by shifting really far forward. But remember, Gragas is gone and Meteos is recalling. So Jensen must have just felt incredibly powerful and sought Adrian. But Adrian flashed away. Like, that's just a poor play by Jensen. And meanwhile, Huni's like way over on the side. You can see. And he teleports in, and then he must ult back out. Yeah, and he flies right back to his teleport location. So Huni actually misplays the early portion of this fight hugely. Echo ulting back to the start of his teleport location. But then he just kind of waits in the wings to finish off Jensen, gets the stun, nothing he can do.
Jensen just watching the fight as he backs.
And then later on, he's also able to take down Wild Turtle, which I think was the more impressive part of the fight. So Huni like making misplays and then making up for the misplay and then making another mistake. He's just, he wants to be the defining factor in this game. One way or the other.
He is Huni.
Yeah, that's a huge amount of gold for Immortals. They pick up a bunch of shutdown kills as well as multiple turrets.
Yep.
So gold is back on them, but the Elder Drake is coming up in 15 seconds.
Huni making mistakes look good sometimes as Immortals continue to pressure in 17-14 though. Cloud9's definitely still fighting back, and one of the main reasons the whole base has not fallen yet. They still get a few members of Immortals down and are able to hold the defense after a fight that they did lose.
Yeah.
And it's the pressure into the chase. No Sivir action coming from Immortals, so they can't get in, but Impact actually gives them the range that they need.
Damage.
They had just tried to initiate, said no, but said, hey, we'll send one in, and then Ali, Oxenfree, everybody come over from Immortals, and they're on to Cloud9. C9 Meteos looks like he could go down in the same fashion as last time, just against the wall in mid. And Jensen,
gonna win.
one last shot. He gets over the wall, but now they're even onto his teammate. That's Sneaky that goes down. Pobelter, he's just walking along. Boom, there it is. Distorts right into the face of Jensen, and that's the ace.
Even if Immortals doesn't have minions, the death timers are so substantial, 49 minutes in here, that Immortals can just take the inhibitor and maybe even just face tank the Nexus turret. It's going to be a little tricky.
None of their tanky dude. I guess it's just Rainover that would be able to get in there. Huni probably for a few
Karma
now.
shields. Huni can get his shield from his parallel converters. They're just going to go
That's
for
true.
it.
The Karma shield is big. Then the mantra is the repeat. They're going to be able to keep going with that for a while. That's one Nexus turret. Immortals looking for the first game of the series here against Cloud9, who had dominated the Dragons, dominated a bit of the early game, but Immortals able to come back and 41-19 control a solid game and take game one.
Wow, and definitely not in convincing fashion, but still, the very final fight just felt like it all fell apart for Cloud9. They had these tremendously fed damage dealers in Jensen and Sneaky, but Cloud9's front line just evaporated without really providing any presence.
Yeah.
And Immortals was just using the Karma speed-ups as well as the Ghost and Righteous Glory of Rainover as well as Huni, and just ran through Cloud9, which, when you consider the fact that they'd already accumulated 4 dragons, now mind you, only 1 Infernal Drake, And late in the game, the Ocean Drake, when everyone is full health, also isn't helping you. And the out-of-combat move speed was only going to help. So really, they're just fighting against that 8% attack damage and ability power at the very end. Immortals recognized that, went straight for it, knew they had pretty close items, outplayed Cloud9 in the final team fight, and took it for the victory.
I think it would have been like the bee's knees if a few Earth or Mountain Drakes would have been in there. They probably would have meant the Outer Dragons for Cloud9, which stalled so much of their strategy. Once you have the mid down, we actually saw they got at least 1 or 2 kills. Jensen was in there getting a kill by Raptors, and there was another one. But those 2 side lane turrets up don't allow you to do that safely at all.
Yeah, despite getting 17 kills and 4 Drakes, Cloud9 only killed 3 turrets the whole game. The top lane turret still standing at the end of the game for Immortals. It really was all about getting the right control for that Elder Drake, because the number of Drakes you have when you get Elder Dragon is just massive for the multiplicative damage. If they could have gotten the true damage burn from the 4 dragons, which would have been 235 true damage burn for every spell or auto over 3 seconds, for everyone, would have just won the fight for them clean off. But Immortals, stronger teamwork, I think, made a lot of mistakes that game, didn't tilt, stayed on it, and they were able to get first game of the series.
Good way to push it in. Cloud9 having also a little bit of trouble clearing on that. Gragas you can with soldiers, but once those are out, the team knows those abilities are down. Very easy to come back and just siege on that.
Yeah, also we did talk about the fall off that Gragas has in the late game. You compare the damage Huni was doing in the final fights versus how much Impact was doing. And when Impact also melts at the start of the fight, he's not tanking either. So really a non-factor in most of the game was Impact aside from one good ultimate.
All right, now for more on that Immortals victory, let's head over to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Immortals picking up the first win of the day here against Cloud9. What a crazy game, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that one was very close, back and forth. We saw it multiple times, the lead kind of shifting and changing, Cloud9 having control of the Dragons, but Immortals still keeping that gold lead throughout the game. And on top of all that, before we got into the game, we saw a number of champion select, intricacies that we hadn't seen prior. In the Olaf making a reappearance for Reignover, as that's one of his favorite champions, as well as the Ashe coming in for Engage, and then the likes of the Gragas top lane against the Echo. So first, what do you make of the champion select that we saw come out of Cloud9 and Immortals here?
I think for Immortals, it seemed more standard for them because the Reignover thing where he picks Olaf. It's one of the strongest early game junglers, and you just turn it into a tank and run past everything, run past the Bard ult. I think you can run past the Zero ult too if you
get it before.
Yeah. And just crazy.
Yeah, I think it was a little interesting. I think like the Rek'Sai Gragas right away, it's like not much of a surprise factor. You figured out where like normally you might be able to like flex some of those. I understand first picking the Rek'Sai, keep it off of Reignover, which is also one of his best champs, but I think it might have been the case where C9 was playing a little bit around C9 or Immortals too much as opposed to their own game.
All right, well, and then, of course, as we saw the game kind of play out, we saw a pretty early double TP into the bot lane by Immortals, picking up a 4-for-0 plus the turret. And we had some questions around the TP picked up on LeBlanc, and here it pays dividends as opposed to an Ignite in the mid lane.
Yeah, I think this is one of those situations where you see, Pobelter not performing that well in mid lane during the laning phase, but as soon as it's over, he's able to make a huge play in this bot lane. They pick everyone up, and they're able to take this turret. And he actually played the fight really well by splitting his target. While his team cleaned up 1 kill, he made sure the next couple were secured as well.
Yeah, so plenty of gold influx here. Darius, you got something?
The bottom line here was that the synergy of both the TPs were so well, you just don't expect it. So all of a sudden, whoa, 5 people bot. Jensen's still middle, like pushing the wave and walking down. It's like by the time he gets down there, the fight is already over. So I was like, oh man, I wasn't prepared for this,
Right, yeah, Azir not being able to keep up with that move there with the double TP, but a huge influx of gold there for Immortals. That was what was kind of keeping them in it against the likes of 4 dragons picked up for Cloud9 throughout the series. Infernal to start things off, follow that up with 2 Cloud Drakes. A lot of us were, we're sitting here saying this seems pretty, they're sitting pretty, as they move through. Of course, now we're going to welcome our Echo Fox and P1 viewers as they come in. We're talking right to them.
Wave, like, hello.
Hello, guys. As we're talking about Immortals' first victory over Cloud9 on the initial victory of the day, continuing to work through it, Cloud9 with those 4 dragons, as well as very quickly into the series, pretty well looked like might be a game-breaking moment. Jensen picking up a quadra kill 23 minutes into the game. That's when you say all the gold just went onto the right person if I'm Cloud9.
Yeah, I think this is one of the defining moments in the game. It was a very early Baron call. They had really only killed the Caitlyn, and they're not that tanky. And C9 is able to collapse on this Baron attempt, and Jensen plays this fight just immaculately. Everyone else is always the focus until right about now, and he's still able to clean up all the kills, push the LeBlanc off him. He just played this fight super well.
And when all the gold goes onto Azir, one of your main damage carries after Sneaky, it's just really, really good as long as you don't get caught and as long as you don't get screwed over by the tank line.
But
right,
he got caught.
But he got caught. I mean, it's a valid point to bring up, right? Which is because again, you would look at that and you'd say, if Cloud9 at this point plays it out properly, they should pretty much walk away with this game. They've got the gold on the right person in that Azir. Caitlyn is still powering up, sure, but if we can get our tank line and Gragas and Rek'Sai out in front of them, we should be able to kind of push through and take the objectives one by one. Immortals, though, finding their windows of opportunity to get those Ashe ults out and kind of capitalize on small picks here and there and snowball the game to victory from that.
That was pretty much the story of the game after the double TPs. After they finished pushing bottom, C9 was already in position in the enemy jungle where Turtle got caught, and then they kind of took turns where Sneaky got caught, Turtle got caught. Like, the tanks and the people who are catching are, like, not giving up any space, and it's just back and forth, and if you skip steps, you're going to get caught.
One of the things that Dyrus and I were talking about was the Echo build. Huni went AP, and so, like, our thoughts were that, like, if he just went tank, those team fights would have been a lot easier because half the time it was rain over, like, solo diving, and if he just had one buddy, he could have got a kill or two.
Right.
But then it just still doesn't matter because Huni comes in at the end of the fight and cleans a couple people up. So it was this kind of, like, weird, I think we both preferred tank for the team comp, but he played it well and, got a lot of kills for his team.
Yeah, that brings us to about that 40-minute mark in the game where Immortals picks up an ace plus the base to close it out. So as we watch it play out here on this screen, we will see kind of the overwhelming amount of damage that comes out of the Immortals team comp, given the fact that they do have that full AP Echo.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. You just see the Olaf go flying in to finish off the Gragas there, and he's still just going in nonstop. And this is a time where once the front line is down and on the retreat, there's really not much you can do to stop that Olaf. He's just going to be a freight train running right at the rest of the team.
And one of the benefits of AP Echo right here, you just see Sneaky get one shot from 80% HP. It's pretty crazy for late game.
Yeah, it was one of those moments where you're looking at Jensen Sneaky and just saying, man, I feel so bad. They didn't even have a single moment to kind of turn and unleash the damage potential that they have, from their 2 champions. But well played by Immortals picking that up. That is going to, of course, take us to our player of the game. That's going to be awarded to Wild Turtle in this series. Again, Wild Turtle, and we've spoken about him throughout the previous split, really stepping up within this Immortals roster, operating smoothly behind those frontliners that he has and putting out consistent damage for his team throughout the split.
Yeah, I think a lot of those fights all started with pretty critical Ashe arrows. He wasn't like airballing too many of them, so the team fights would have gone a lot worse if he just kept missing them and they had to try and pick it up from there.
So that'll conclude our coverage here of the Immortals and C9 first game of the series. We're going to kind of swap gears now over to Echo Fox and Phoenix One, where Echo Fox picked up their first win after, again, another decently long, decently back and forth game. Initially when we were looking at it, the lane swap comes through at the very beginning of the game. Echo Fox coming out ahead of that, 2 turrets to 1. There were some immediate reservations around Phoenix and their inexperience having given up an extra turret in that lane swap, not being able to keep pace necessarily, but they made a number of good moves throughout the mid game to kind of keep themselves within striking distance of Fox.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the areas where the best of 3 really shows its strengths. I think Phoenix One actually played pretty well, given how bad of a situation they put themselves in, off just a small brain fart by not finishing that turret off. So I think that's where you get to see, hopefully in game 2, they get to show that if they're on equal footing, they're going to outperform them.
Yeah, it's just one of those beginner or rookie mistakes that could be really big, but since the game was so drawn out, it didn't really matter too much.
Yeah, we did see a tremendous amount of dragon control from the side of Echo Fox. Again, kind of gifted that first dragon because of that lane swap stuff, but we saw 20 minutes into the game, still a lot of focus around this dragon area. Ultimately, 4 dragons going to go in the way of Echo Fox. and one or three of which being the Infernal Drake. So a lot of damage coming out of it from this composition.
Yeah, and so up until now, even though Phoenix 1 was down dragons, they were actually up gold, and this was the first time that they really tried to make a move on the dragon. But because Echo Fox was already so far ahead with that dragons and the speed of their comp, they just charged in there and finished them off.
On top of that, it wasn't only just being ahead in gold, but positioning. There you could see Froggen coming in from the top, and P1 just wasn't grouped in time.
And let's talk about Froggen briefly, just because we did finally have an opportunity here in NA to see that Swain get played, and even through the lane phase, being a bit of a bully, massive CS, and then we saw multiple times just basically 1v5ing the team, at least for a period of time, when he would get caught out until his team shows up to save the day.
It's just one of those team comps where you have Maokai, Swain, Sivir, like there's just so much like tankiness between Maokai and Swain that either one of them could get caught and the fight will still go well for them because they just run at you, they have CC, and they do a ton of damage. So it's like, what am I doing against this comp? I can't kill them, and they're just really fast.
Yeah, I mean, you catch someone out of position, it doesn't matter. Sivir's going to get the rest of the team there in 5 seconds. So with those people in the side lanes being so tanky, they're not going to die during that time.
Well, so it'll come as no surprise then that our player of the game for our second series here is going to be Keith in that ADC position. Again, as that ADC, that Sivir, kind of being that crucial utilitarian of the team, right? Supplying that speed as well as the consistent damage to be behind those two frontliners in Swain and Maokai. Really just throwing it out there. 4-0-4 on Sivir, as you can see on your screen there.
Oddly enough, the AD carries being more of the utility for the team while the tanks do all the damage. It's really nice to see them get the MVP.
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit of MVP honors coming their way as they do what they need to do to get their teams their first victories of the series. We've already had 2 crazy games today, but we're just getting started with our best-of-3 format. Stay tuned for more action-packed games right after the break.